Welcome to another episode of Create the Edge. And today we've got two of our very, very close friends from the United States of America. We've got Randy Heller, who, I think he does a little bit of, flying around, swooping in and being completely awesome regarding content creation. So I'm just going to call him the Clark Kent, the Superman of content creation there. And on the other hand, we've got David Brier, who I'm not sure whether a lot of you know. He does stand in for Robert Downey Jr. as the Iron Man. So I'm going to call him the Iron Man of branding. It's such a pleasure to have you, David and Randy, on this episode of Create the Edge. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Joy, who has some very interesting questions, which we would like to share your opinions that you have with our viewers.
I'll start with Randy. Randy's an hour ahead of you, David, and I think we need to finish it fast. Otherwise, he might just fall asleep on the screen. So, Randy, this goes out to you. In today's world, where change is the only constant and advances in technology is being used in everything, in your opinion, how important is the human touch in business and specifically in marketing going forward? What I mean by going forward is, we're seeing AI, automation, all of this coming in very heavily. And there's this huge debate happening on one side about the ethical part of AI and unemployment, job loss, universal income, all of that is happening. So how does that impact us? And I'm now clubbing all four of us since we play in this area of brand, marketing, copy, everything. How does it affect us and brands and businesses, let's say in the next sort of 3 years, in your opinion?
What sort of bothers me these days with these technologies are the attempts to try to use it to mimic human communication. So Alexa and the chat bots and email automation. Now I've been reading about articles about AI that I guess can actually create content, write sort of news article pieces by cobbling together, bits of facts and information, which I guess is feasible, but that's limited, right? Because AI, at this point in time anyway, still lacks the ability to understand human context, right? So I posted something yesterday about that I had read about last year, where an AI was tasked with reading all of the all 7 Harry Potter books, every page, every word, and then using an algorithm to spit out a new chapter. And the result was hilarious. I mean, it was just a hilarious read, but it wasn't good, right? It wasn't satisfying. It's sort of like teaching a parrot to say curse words. It's funny, and it's a nice party trick, but it's not really true communication, right? It's not, so how could an AI like that create a persuasive argument or create an emotional connection between, the writer and the reader, between a business and a client, right? Yeah. So, case in point for me, so I like to use a lot of figurative language, when I write a lot of metaphor and analogy and idiom. It's raining cats and dogs, right? Because that's a way to say more in less words, and appeal to the person that you're talking to, connect with them. But when I'm communicating directly with somebody for whom English isn't their first language, I scale that way back, right? I try to use more literal language. I don't want to confuse somebody, because if I can confuse them, then it's missing the point of communication. And an AI doesn't know to do that. It doesn't know to pull in that context and understand what somebody, who normally French or whatever it is they speak, what will translate across, right? So, and for what it's worth, that speaking programmatically or communicating programmatically isn't even just something that we deal with technology. We see it with human beings too. So, form letters, that we get in the mail, or, we've all talked to a customer service rep who is clearly reading from a script, right? They're not really, they're waiting for you to say something that's on that script so that they can read 2 sentences, and it gets very frustrating because you're not really being heard. It's all just triggering, and that's a human. That's not even, a bot. So So my appeal always to, to business, people in business and marketing and clients that I work with is to always use language in a, in an intentional, deliberate, contextual and human manner to really draw on that sort of human context to not just convey information, but to build that bridge between two people, whether it's the writer and the reader, or a business and a prospective client, because at the end of the day, that's what human language is supposed to do. Again, it's not just supposed to be this one way sort of transmission of information, but it's got to be back and forth. And in order to do that, there really always needs to be that context, that human context. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Great. Randy, you've just elaborated on something one of our previous guests mentioned, is that this human touch is, we have this ability, which AI might have down the line, but not today, to bring 20 different things together and contextualize it and put it out there. And that's what creates that little connect from what you're saying. Unlike an AI, you can teach it to play chess and it'll beat all the grandmasters. But while it's playing chess, it cannot cook you another pasta dish simultaneously. Whereas us human can play rapid chess and look at the pasta at the same time. So just hold that for a minute out there. David, your view, really interested in where do you think marketing, branding is going in this world of technology?
I have a very different take than, from a lot of the things that I see out there. I see a lot of fascination with AI. I tend to be a little contrarian on it, because what I find is there's such a desire to put as many things on autopilot as possible. And to me, the real magic of any great brand story, of any great creation, of something that can anticipate what our experience is going to be when we're using a product or a service or something. Like, we all know that incredible feeling when we're engaged in a brand of any sort, and we open the box, or we walk into the store, or we engage in some way, and they're already 3 steps ahead and knowing and handing you that cup of coffee, or moving that thing out of your way, or the box, when you take out the one part, all of a sudden the next part is there, and it's kind of like already anticipating your presence and arrival. To me, that's ingenuity that I don't see can be automated. And to me, those are the great differentiators that really connect us too, because who's made most important at that point? It's you and me when we are interacting with that thing. So, I think that there are repetitive tasks that we can all do. I still require marital counseling with Siri, because I curse her out every freaking day. Okay. So the thing is obviously either I'm expecting too much from her, or she's dumb. Okay. So the thing is here's the example that everyone's dealing with AI at every day on a certain level. I am still stunned because I'm a great admirer of Apple as a company. I love what Steve Jobs brought to the world. I love that whole culture. I love the standard that they always strove for. I am still stunned that today, that contextually, and you'll appreciate this, Randy, because you touched upon this, contextually, the amount of stupidity that is possible. Because I use the dictation as much as possible. Instead of me typing, I'll press the microphone and I'll say, "Hey, Joy, what do you think of you and me getting together later, and we're gonna sit. Let's meet at that coffee house and do blah 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 blah." Probably every possible stupid, out of context, homonym that could be done will be done. It's unbelievable, and how can that still today yet still be happening? It amazes me.
Absolutely right.
There you go. Both of you have actually just made amazing points. Like, the 2 main takeaways that I see from both what you and Randy have just shared, David, is like, there are 2 things which AI can never sort of replicate, and number 1 is personality, and that is so important, and the number 2 thing is basically you know, it's so important to keep in mind that information that you're actually portraying, you can actually speak at, or you can speak to someone.
Beautiful.
Now, there's a very fine line between the speak to and the speak at, but that's what makes the huge difference in all the interactions that a brand, that a person, that a company actually wishes to have with its target audience. So thank you once again. Now, there's one question that all our viewers definitely want to know a little bit more regarding who's behind the public persona of David Brier and Randy Heller. Now, I know that David, you're Iron Man, and Randy, you're Superman. But, you know, apart from that, what is something that perhaps we wouldn't be able to guess about you?
Something that people wouldn't be able to guess about me?
Yep. They won't guess, and they don't know.
Wow. Oh my God. Well, okay. I mean, here's one thing. Here's one thing, actually, now that I've had a few seconds to reflect on that. Okay. So two things. One is there are people who, with my book, Brand Intervention, there are people who, when they read that and they love it and they think it's great, and then they say, you know what, we need to hire you, David, to handle our brand or rebrand. And by the way, who does your design? And I look at them, I'm like,
You didn't read the book, did you?
I'm like, excuse me. I said, you're talking to him. So that's one layer, is that I sometimes will bring in other designers to collaborate and sort of expand the pool of that. But I'm still being the creative director on it. But I still do 80% of the design that's done for projects. But I always have the creative thing. The other layer, the prior layer to that, is as I was growing up in my teens, and people know it who come to my office, they'll see paintings on the wall, very large paintings. I loved the fine artists. I loved Da Vinci and Michelangelo, Rembrandt. As I was growing up, I'm an artist. I have done fine art paintings, life drawing. So I actually have done this, and I've done this long enough where when I started in the industry, there's the one thing that very few people know. When I started in the industry, there was no computer. There was no internet. There was no social media. There wasn't any email. So the bottom line is you actually had to show up at something called a desk. And for those who are young, look it up. You can Google it. It's called a desk. S-A. And there's something called a drawing table. You could look that one up too. You know, and those. But literally, it's funny when I paint the picture when I'm speaking to younger people entering the industry, younger entrepreneurs. They're like, no internet. No. I mean, like that whole layer. You don't check this before you wake up. The first thing when you wake up, you don't look at the last thing when you go to bed. That whole world of existence didn't exist. That's one thing. Those are a couple things people don't know about me.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Randy, what about you?
My turn. Okay, so I guess when David in his teens it sounds like painting. Now it's hard. This is hard. It's a hard question because I tend, as you guys know from reading my articles, I tend to share a lot in my articles about things, various things I've done, driving across the country, dropping out of college a couple of different times, all of that. But one that I don't think I've covered yet is that when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of my time playing something called Dungeons and Dragons. Now, so you all know what that is. To anybody out there who's watching this, just Google it. It was a kind of, interactive, storytelling, where one person sort of creates the adventure and the others sort of play characters, in that adventure. And more often than not, I was what was called the Dungeon Master. I was the one creating the stories.
Oh, you were the Dungeon Master.
No wonder.
There you go. It just, there's that bulb which has gone up in David's head. Oh my goodness.
Dungeon Master, Master Writer, so, but it was a great way at the time, because I was rather, introverted and shy, but it was a great way for me to because no matter what adventure you would create, it would invariably go off the rails 5 minutes in when they decided they wanted to go into the woods instead of follow the road, right? So I had to do a lot of this on the fly content and story creation, like right there on the spot. And it was almost kind of like improv for a writer. So this was a real sort of baptism, by fire for me, that it's
Mhm.
something that has sort of stuck with me to this day, that, I got to write an article, this week, and I just got to come up with something, and I just got to
Mhm.
pull one little piece and turn it into an article or a story or whatever it is. And that was something that I kind of honed very early on in my teen years by doing something incredibly geeky with my friends. So
Lovely.
Awesome, absolutely fantastic. Well, see, I mean, each and every one of us has done something geeky. So it's not about. See, I'm a big believer of something like, the moment you start thinking about what others feel about you, that's the moment where you actually stop working towards your purpose and your own vision. So, and that's so important. So, don't worry about what others are thinking about you. And Randy, I mean, and David. And I think it's clearly evident in both your personalities, both of what you share with your networks, which we are very, very proud and humbled to be a part of, which is just out there. It is different, and it's just you, and that is what makes it so brilliant. So
Absolutely.
thank you once again for joining us on this episode of Create the Edge. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to our interactions moving forward. So thank you once again.
Oh,
Thank you so much,
absolutely.
David.
So thank you for having. Thank you on behalf of the entire contiguous United States. I thank you. Right, so I'm speaking for Randy and myself and the other. What is it? How many million are we up to? Like 350 million, 400 million, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of thank yous coming your way right now.
Thank you. You're too kind, David. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So it's been a pleasure, and thank you guys. And we look forward to speaking again soon.
Absolutely.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, guys.